For the final time, we sit with Jesus. Throughout his experiences on the cross, it's 3 p.m., the final sacred moments. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out to you by day, but you do not answer. By night I find no rest. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises. In you our ancestors put their trust. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried out and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights him. Yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast on you. From my mother's womb, you have been my God. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I'm thirsty. A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on the stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, it is finished. With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. It is finished. It is finished. Jesus tells the world moments before his death, it is finished. What would that have meant to them? To the Romans, it must have been obvious. Of course it's finished. We're very good at doing this. We've put hundreds, thousands of people through this process of crucifixion, and it always finishes the same way. There is no life at the end of crucifixion. There is only one finish. It is death. It is death. What would it have meant to the disciples, those earliest followers of Jesus? Think about all they've been through over the last 24 hours. They've sat with Jesus for a meal in which it's really obvious that they haven't got the slightest clue what is about to happen. In the midst of Jesus pouring out his heart and telling them everything that he is about to go through, they sit and argue about who will be the greatest. It's this perfect example of how to misunderstand what a speaker is saying. Maybe they thought Jesus was a little down. Maybe they thought he'd got a little bit mopey over the last few days. In the midst of him outlining what needed to happen for the plan to work, they argue about who's the greatest. And then at the first sign of danger, they run away. They're gone. They disappear. And then during the time of crucifixion, they don't sit, they hide. They're distant. They are far gone. And what are they thinking? What does it is finished mean to them? What is finished? Their hopes and dreams are finished. They're done. Maybe the Romans will let them get away. Maybe they'll be satisfied with cutting off the head of the snake, as it were. Maybe they'll be satisfied with killing the leader of this rebellion as they see it. Maybe they'll let these men just disappear back off to whatever backwater towns they came from. Maybe they can get back to Nazareth and Galilee. Maybe they can go back to fishing or tax collecting or some kind of trade. But all of their hopes of what a kingdom in the future looks like, those are all done. Hiding away, scared, is the best that awaits them. We are people of the resurrection. We think of Sunday. We know the story in the light of Sunday. It's coming. It's around the corner. And yet think of these guys on Friday and even Saturday. What does it mean? It is finished. It is finished is terrible news. But what does it mean to Jesus? When Jesus says it is finished, what is he talking about? The answer lies in this moment that's in a couple of the other Gospels, but not in this one. There's this moment when Jesus dies, when he declares it is finished, that it says that the curtain in the temple, the holy place in the middle of Jerusalem, was ripped in two, torn from top to bottom. That's what's finished. What does that mean? To understand it, we need to know a little bit about temple geography, because everything about Jerusalem told you where you fit into the plan, where you belonged. You could go to Jerusalem. Anyone could go to Jerusalem. And anyone could walk up the steps towards the temple court. Anyone could walk into the first level, the court of the Gentiles. So long as you didn't misbehave, do anything ostentatious, you were allowed there. And then eventually you'd come to a point where there was a sign, which said essentially something, not verbatim, but close to. No one not Jewish beyond this point. The moment a non-Jewish person steps beyond here, you're as good as dead. And then you move inside, and so you're into a place that only Jewish people could go, and then finally there's a place where only Jewish men could go, and then in the next level there's a place where only Jewish Levites and priests could go, and finally only Jewish priests, and then finally to the center point, this moment where there's a place that only the high priest could go, and only him once a year, and he covered himself with blood just for protection. It's quite possible that he could be struck down at the moment he walked through the curtain. Because behind this curtain is everything that Jewish people considered holy. Everything Jews considered holy was there. The Ten Commandments would have been there at some point. Moses' staff, all these things that they held to be sacred. But most of all, on the Ark of the Covenant, there was a place called the mercy seat, and there it was believed that God's presence actually dwelt in a particular way. That was where God was in a way that he wasn't anywhere else. So when that curtain rips, that means a couple of things. It means that you can go in, I can go in. Suddenly the access was there. But in this bigger way, it means that God moved out. It means that God would no longer be found just in that spot. That God's presence would now be found in the hearts of people like you and me, hearts of his followers. That's this incredible thing that Jesus is finishing. The old thing is gone and a new thing is dawning in that moment when he says it's finished. He kind of means it's finished, but he also, in this incredible way, kind of means it's just begun. Suddenly the holiest place isn't in the temple, but it's in places like where Jesus and his followers were the night before, gathered in a table in communion. When you take communion, you're remembering that thing, that God's presence is there in a way that it isn't anywhere else, that God's presence is there when anyone gathers together in his name. This is what Jesus is doing. He finished this old thing and he started this new thing. When we sit with Jesus in his final moments, that's what he's talking about. That's what's finished. And that's what we remember. This is grace. Perhaps you've tried to sneak into a party or an event or something like that. You've tried to get to a level of access that you don't have. Maybe you've got some kind of security clearance. You've said, I'm going to try and get some information, and you've been told at some point, no, this is as far as you come. That's what the purity concept was all about. Eventually, everyone reached their point, without exception. Jesus changes all of that. You and I are welcomed into the presence of God in a particular way, and that's what's different. The old thing is finished. The new thing has come. You are forgiven. The moment you turn to this Jesus, you are forgiven. Access through this Jesus will always be there for you and for I. That's the journey of the cross, and that's what we celebrate. And we're going to close with this idea, with this prayer. O God of unchangeable power and eternal light, look down on your church, that wonderful church, that mystery, that place of your presence. May we know your presence in new ways, in new and powerful ways. Let the whole world see and know that things which were cast down are being raised up. Things which are grown old are being made new. All in the name of your Son, Jesus, who lives and reigns with you. In some of Paul's writing, it says this: God was pleased to reconcile all things to himself, whether in heaven or on earth, by making peace through the blood of the cross. That's our celebration on Good Friday. As we move towards resurrection and all of that means, we celebrate these three things on Good Friday. You are accepted. You are not alone. You are forgiven.
Your blood speaks a better word than all the empty claims I've heard upon this earth. Speaks righteousness for me and stands in my defense. Jesus, it's your blood. Your blood speaks a better word than all the empty claims I've heard upon this earth. Speaks righteousness for me, it stands in my defense. Jesus, it's your blood. What can wash away our sins? What can make us whole again? Nothing but the blood, nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can wash us pure as snow, welcomed as the friends of God? Nothing but the blood, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Your cross testifies in grace, tells of the Father's heart to make a way for us. And boldly we proclaim that earthly confidence. Jesus, it's your blood. What can wash away our sins? What can make us whole again? Nothing but the blood.